Today I have Mads Kristensin, who is a program manager at Microsoft on the Visual Studio team. I
Yep,
believe I got that right. And there is huge news today about the release of what are we calling it? Visual Studio 2026,
that's it. Yeah,
which is extremely exciting for those of us who use Visual Studio every day. This is the first, what would you call this, major release, first new iteration in 4 years?
yeah. We call it a major release. Yeah.
So tell me about Visual Studio 2026. What are some of the things I should know right away?
Right away, right out of the gate, I would say there's three things that you're gonna notice immediately. So number one, performance. Your solutions are gonna load faster. Your startup is faster. Your builds are faster. So when you hit F5, the time for you to hit F5 till your app starts up and you hit your breakpoint in a debugging session is faster. Um, so the when you open documents is faster. It's no longer a blocking operation. So what we've really done is that we've taken um, a lot of the things that before, let's say you were executing an action, you hit a button, and Visual Studio would kind of freeze for like a second or half a second or 2 seconds or 5 seconds, depending on the action. So what is actually happening is that that action is performing something on the UI thread, which means that the UI cannot be updated. It cannot do anything else. You can't like open a context menu. You can't hover over something to see the background effect change when you hover over a button, let's say, or something, because the UI thread is occupied performing a task. We've taken so many things and now moved off the UI thread to make Visual Studio more responsive. So immediately you're going to notice that the way you open files, when you open solutions, it comes in so much faster and Visual Studio stays responsive through the whole thing. You can interact with everything. Nothing is being blocked. So there's a very light feel to Visual Studio 2026 that you're going to notice if you come from an earlier version. Like it's going to be very apparent to you, the difference. The second is the new UI. So we're adopting this new modern fluent UI design language, crisper lines, 11 new color themes on top of like light and dark. There's 11 more on top of that. So you really out of the gate has this fantastic, choice of personalization, crisp lines, great new icons. All the icons have been updated. There's about 4,000 icons in Visual Studio, by the way, and they're now updated and they're absolutely gorgeous. And so those are huge. We see we shipped out. You were one of the people that got first dibs on some of the early previews that we sent out to a small group of people, the MVP, so they could try it out and give us feedback and tell us what didn't work and so on. And the overwhelming amount of feedback we got back was, "Wow, this is the fastest thing ever," and two, "This is beautiful."
Yes.
Those were the two things that we heard again and again and again. And so and we're very pleased because we kind of that's what we went for.
And don't minimize beauty because if you're sitting in front of the screen for 40, 50 hours a week, having a UI that is pleasant, easy on the eye, not causing strain, these are really important characteristics. And then a little bit of extra flair to it is always nice as well.
Yep, it is incredibly important, and we always have people tell us, "Why did you spend time on this when this over here is much more important to me?" And everybody's different. No two people are the same. We all want different things, but one thing is for sure. One thing we all share is that when we spend half our waking lives in Visual Studio, like 8 to 10 hours a day, like it becomes our second home, and the little things that matter to us become big because of just the amount of time we use. So it for a lot of people, something like the right color scheme is so important. It also has something to do with your eye strain and your accessibility, the cognitive load when too many things are happening at the same time or whatnot. Like there's so many reasons why something like this is important. But it there's something here for everybody too. Like it's those are my two big ones. And then the third one, which is deep, deep, deep Copilot integration. So, today you go to the chat window to kind of interact with Copilot. That's true for most of, Visual Studio, VS Code, and so on. But what we're doing with Visual Studio 2026 is delivering on that kind of promise that was given with ambient AI and having an AI that understands your full context of your app, your workflow, your processes, your repo, your Azure topology. If you're publishing to Azure, let's say, like it knows all of your stuff, your databases, and all of it. So you can imagine if we can build if we can build AI into kind of more core components of Visual Studio, we can harness all that knowledge to make you even better at your job. So the uh, the reason we haven't done that in the monthly updates we did to Visual Studio 2022 is that it has to go so deep that we kind of need a new version to do that. And one of the main features that we're doing with this is, well, first of all, think of it this as a foundational update. This deep integrations allow us to build features on top of it that is kind of ambient, that is where you are, helping you with the things that you're doing, adding value to where it makes sense, but not being noisy, not being in your way, and not being a separate thing that you kind of have to like engage with separately in a chat window where you have to ask it, hey, can you help me out over here with something? But it's like more ambient and just kind of present and knowing more.
Talk more about that. I'm not going to say, please optimize or please explain or please fix this particular thing anymore.
No, you absolutely can still do that because there's some task where you want to be the one that you have a certain thing that you want it to do. You can say, hey, help me get ready to fix this bug, and it can open the right files and it can suggest how to fix them. For instance, you want to be the one that prompts those things, but you can think of it as so the one feature we're building on this that is coming, that is in this first preview, is the profiler agent. And this might explain a little bit about what this is, what this enables. So the profiler agent understands profiling in Visual Studio. So, most other IDEs and editors don't have a profiler. Visual Studio has a profiler, which means it understands the running executable code as it runs. It can instrument your code, run the profiler, and figure out what are the hot paths, what are the performance issues, where are the memory leaks, where are all the CPU cycles going in your code, so that you can optimize it. Now, not a lot of people use the profiler. And two, when you figure out what your hot paths are and what lines of code takes up the most CPU time, like how are you going to fix it? Do you know how to do it? Like you were the one that created the issue to begin with. So are you the most qualified to figure it out? Maybe, but maybe not. So the profiler agent is able to very scientifically, using benchmarks, it can go in, do benchmarks to figure out, to start measuring things in your code. It can run the profiler on your running app to figure out where are the hot paths, where are the CPU cycles going, where's the memory being allocated, all that type of stuff. It can then get the baseline from the benchmarks. It can then go in and see in the individual lines of code that were the worst offenders, let's say, from a performance perspective. And it can go in and suggest, here's what I would do to attack this problem, it will say, and say, here's what I think we should do. So it might optimize a bunch of stuff that you didn't know how to do. You caused these issues to begin with. You might not know how to fix them, right? But even if you do, you might not have known all the different ways of fixing it or the most efficient way of fixing it. So it now comes in and it will tell you its plan, and you can say, hey, don't do it this way. I don't understand that way, or do it this way instead. And then it can run some benchmarks again and say, hey, this is still good. It's still better than it was before. Should I do that instead? So you are in control of the entire thing. But the best part is it can fix all your performance issues, right? Help you with that. But you learn what it did at the same time. So the next time you write the code that's similar, hey, this is a trap. If I do it this way, I should do it this other way because it's going to be more performant. So it's going to help you avoid these mistakes going forward. You're going to be a better developer for it. But of course, the app is going to be faster, right? So this is one of those things where we have a unique opportunity in Visual Studio because we have a profiler that with the deep integrated knowledge um, that with the AI deeper into Visual Studio, into the profile, or into all these type of things, and give it awareness of all of it, and the ability to execute it too, execute things in Visual Studio. We can now finally unlock some of these scenarios that before was like really advanced, and so it's kind of democratizing these very hard to do things, and so now everybody can do this and learn from it and be better developers.
I write APIs all day, and writing an API means touching a lot of parts of the program. And it also means talking to tools. We use Dapper,
Mhm.
and you're talking to the database, and you're talking to Azure, and you're talking to message buses. How much of that can I expect to be able to talk to Copilot about, so that if I have a problem in my API, that I can say, help me figure out why this particular thing isn't working, or help me figure out what I need in my profile to do mapping or whatever.
All of it, all of it. So I think that's the beauty. So Copilot will be able to come in, and it will know about a bunch of APIs already, right? Just the regular Copilot without the profiler agent, and it can give you all sorts of recommendations. So this you can just do today, and it has some very clever things that you might not have thought of. With a profiler agent, you can go in and say, okay, scientifically, let's run these things and figure out exactly where are the issues with performance on these. Or with debugging, you can go in and figure out, okay, why did this exception happen? So I don't know if you've noticed there's an exception helper, Copilot helper. So when you get an exception, you can click the Copilot helper button, and it will try to figure out what actually happened that led to this issue, and how would it recommend that you fix it. It's immensely powerful
That's
stuff.
great. Let
Yeah.
me let me talk to you about, and I should know this from the preview, but I don't. One of the things that I personally find difficult is an extensive link statement with many parts,
Yeah.
and it fails. And did it fail here, or did it fail there? And what was the value at this point? Can Copilot help me walk through that and see at each step along the way what's going on?
Yeah, and also, yeah, you can, but you don't actually need to use Copilot. You can, if you use the new visualizer for uh, IEnumerables, you can come in and it will show you, and you can write link queries. You can actually use Copilot. There's a Copilot button in that visualizer. So when you debug, you mouse over your dictionary or your list or whatever, you get like UI up, and it will show you all the values. So if you have a list of objects, you will see all the properties of each object listed through reflection. It will show you columns in a table, and you can start writing link queries. So you can copy your link query in, and you can see what it generates. You can start massaging it in real time, and it will adjust in the table. You can also just use natural language and tell Copilot, uh, filter this list so that you only give me the objects back that where the property is larger than 4, and that other property is something else.
I swoon.
It's really cool.
This raises the question that I think developers have, which is, how soon are we going to go from writing code to becoming prompt engineers? Take a wild guess at that one.
Yeah, I have not seen anything, I've not heard anything that makes me believe that we're going to stop writing code. There might be, I think what we are getting in the next, at least for the next few years, at least, is that the co-pilot is going to be kind of that co-pilot. They're not going to be the pilot. They're going to be sort of sitting beside you and helping with the mundane, the toil, take away the boring parts, the things that does not require your brain, right? We want your brain to work on the hard problems, or the fun problems, or the things you're passionate about, or the things where your creativity is unmatched, where you add unique value, right? Those are the things that I think everybody wants you to spend most time on, including yourself. Those are the fun things, right?
Yep.
And you can have your Copilot, you can send it off in the background and say, hey, can you start working on these bugs while I concentrate on figuring out how to do this new feature? You know, um, I see that. So I don't, I, that seems to me the way that things are going, that there's like two things. So there's the profiler thing we just talked about, where you become a better developer. It allows you to open a door that was otherwise closed to you. You didn't know how to go further in your understanding of like low level C sharp runtime stuff. And Copilot helps you teach that and do that with you, so that door is now open. So that's one thing. It makes you a better developer. It makes you do things you couldn't do. So it makes the impossible possible. I like that. That kind of sounds catchy. Catchy. It makes the impossible possible, but it also takes away kind of the boring, mundane parts, leaving you kind of at a more narrow focus where you can like concentrate on things where you add value. And I don't see I see a lot of work done on both of those two things. I don't see any work being done in eliminating the thing that where you add value or taking
I
over for you.
I apologize. I've taken you down a rabbit hole on Copilot, and I want to get back to Visual Studio 2026
Right.
and what's new in there. And the first part is, can you tell me, especially with regard to what we just talked about, there are going to be, I assume, the same versions, which is to say, community, professional, enterprise.
Yep.
And I get, is there a standard below professional?
Community, Pro, and Enterprise are the three that
Oh,
everyone
that's right.
knows, and then you got the other ones like Build Tools and the Test Platform, and
Right.
there's like a few others that people are not aware of. But yeah, but those are the three ones. They're still going to be there. Yep.
And what do you have to get some of the stuff you were just describing? Because the
Um,
profiler, as far as I remember, was only in enterprise in 2024.
it's everywhere. It's in all the SKUs. You
It's in
get the
all of them.
profiler in
Okay.
all of them, and you can even use Copilot free to use the profiler agent. So there's a free tier of Copilot and there's a paid tier. So
Hmm.
you have a few tokens you can use for free, and then if you want more, you pay. And you can use the profiler agent for free. Yep.
That's great.
In
What else
community.
is exciting in 2026? What else is new? Or, I mean, one of
Yep.
the things that I noticed, which is almost trivial, but still kind of cool, was the options and how you work your way through all of the options.
Yes.
That is very nice and much more
Yes.
extensive, unless I'm mistaken, than it used to
I'm
be.
very excited for the new options, which is kind of weird to be excited by options, but I am. So I think, yeah. So we talked about performance, we talked about the new Fluent UI, and then deep Copilot integration as being kind of three main things. I think the what we can now do, because we have a new settings file, so we now have a JSON based settings thing. Um, Gone are the days of that, unthemable dialogue from tools options, and it's now like this beautiful thing that works. But because it's JSON based, it's backed by a JSON file. You can take that JSON file and you can put it in your repo. So you can now have settings follow your repo, and they will
Nice.
override your global settings. So you can say, I only these four settings I want to follow the repo, and then you can put a JSON file in your repo with just three things in them, and those three things will override whatever was global, and that includes pretty much all of it. So you can say, when I open this solution, I want the color theme to be green. When I open that solution over there, I want the color theme to be dark blue.
Oh, that'll help a lot, actually, because when you have
Mm-hmm.
more than one solution open, it's very easy to get confused as to which one you're in,
Yep.
and turn around and say, "Oh my God, I've been writing this in the wrong solution."
Exactly. So I think that's a huge thing, and you can filter the settings. So you can say, only show me the settings that where I have modified the defaults. That's also going to be really nice. Also for you to discover, if you're a long time, you've been using Visual Studio for many years, so you're like, and Visual Studio roams the settings. So whenever you get a new version, it roams the settings from the old. And so, what settings have I actually changed? Do I need to revisit and see if there are some settings I need to maybe go back to the default? Has something changed that makes that more desirable? We now make that super easy for you. So you
Now,
can
I
see
just
all the
use.
settings that only have anything to do with accessibility or performance as well. So
Mhm.
we have filters.
I just used that yesterday, as a matter of fact, to
Mm.
take my settings from 22.
Yep.
I'm getting a little confused, from 22, and move them into 26, and then say, "Show me what changed," which was great. And
Yeah.
then I walked through the ones that changed. And if I remember properly, there's a little gear that offers you the option to reset that one
Yep.
setting, which makes
Yep.
it much easier to move forward.
You can see every setting. You can see whether or not it is different than the default. It has a different color if it has a different if it's not the default. Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So 26 is out today,
Hmm.
and people can migrate. Is there a migration path, or is it just open up your new project and you're off, or open
Yeah.
up your existing project? That I suppose is the more pressing question.
We always try to maintain backwards compatibility, but often we can't, and that's the whole reason we do a major version. Is often because we need to break some sort of backwards compatibility. So for 2022, we shifted to 64-bit. And so that broke backwards compatibility for extenders and for a bunch of scenarios. So we had to do a new major version. This time around, we're cutting a new major version for a variety of reasons, but none of them have to do with backwards compatibility, which is fantastic. So when you install Visual Studio 2026, the preview, you can install it side by side with your existing 2022. Now, just like you can with any, you can have multiple instances of Visual Studio installed, like different, you can have 2019 Community and 2022 Enterprise, and then you can have 2026 Preview as well, and they can all coexist happily together. If you uninstall one of them, it doesn't touch the others, and so on. And so you can
You're
do
saying
that.
preview, but let me just remind you that the real one is out now. So
Oh, the real one is out now as well. So whether it's preview or not, because we're going to continue the previews, you're still going to be able to get a preview to get access to the earlier stuff before we ship it in the
got it.
stable release, just like we have for the past many years now, I guess. We will continue with that. So anyway, you can get whether it's preview or the stable release of 2026, you can all install them side by side. If you have 2022 and you now install 2026 for the first time, he will actually ask you, do you want a fresh install of 2026, like one where you have to go through everything manually and select what workloads you want, and do you want C# or do you want C++ or whatever, all that type of stuff? Or do you want to base your install on what you had in 2022?
Sweet.
So settings, components, like it knows what workloads and components you had installed, and so it can translate that to kind of whatever that is in 2026, and extensions.
That's what I was going to ask you. And
Ah,
extensions.
yeah,
Brilliant.
because your extension from 2022 for the first time, the extensions from the previous version of Visual Studio is now compatible with the new version of Visual Studio. So that's a huge thing. So maybe you remember, maybe you've experienced this yourself. You get a new major version of Visual Studio, and your favorite extensions are not ready by the time
Yes.
you have the new version, and you have to wait
Yes.
for the author to update the extension. And sometimes they never do that because maybe they changed roles. Maybe they're not using Visual Studio anymore. Maybe they retired. Maybe they have gone off and now they're farming instead of coding. Whatever.
Yes.
And so the good news is that Visual Studio will show you all the extensions that works on 2022. And if you install one, it says, hey, this extension did not claim to work on 2026. Do you want to install it anyway? And you say yes, and it installs. And so far, I have not seen a single extension that does not just work. I've never
That's
heard of
great.
anyone of the MVPs, the people with early access and the early previews have not said anything about it not working.
No, I
So
haven't run into anything so far
I
that
haven't run
falls
into it, and
over.
so I'm very excited for that. That's the first time we've been able to do that, and that has me excited. As an extender, that makes me excited.
Before I let you go, let's talk about what hardware developer is going to need to get the most out of this version.
Yeah. Um, well, so there's the minimal required hardware, which is kind of similar to what we had before. It didn't change too much. I think the minimum is like 4 gigs of memory,
Ooh,
which is like I would not recommend.
yeah,
But it can run on kind of small hardware. What what I think is more interesting is to talk about what does it run best on. And so when we run our benchmarks and we look at like the performance and where we see it really really shine the most, and under different types of workloads, because some people have huge solutions, some only have smaller ones. Some have like huge CMake, C++ kind of things. And so, anyway, the way that your solutions, the makeup of your dependencies and your programming language and all that, it largely depends on what you're doing, on how much memory you use and all that type of stuff. But what we see in general, where you can't go wrong, where you're going to get a great experience no matter what you do, no matter how many Visual Studios you have open at the same time within reason. Like, don't open more than 5, maybe, right?
Right.
But most people don't. Windows 11, 16 logical cores of CPU, logical. So these are like, if you have more, that's fine, you know, but 16 and 64 gigs of memory. So if you can do 16 cores, 64 gigs of memory, and you're on Windows 11, you're off to a flying start.
It's going
This
to
is
scream.
fantastic.
And
Yeah.
the logical cores, this is something to look at in the hardware.
Yeah. So I have a Surface Laptop 6, and it's performing really well. So I have 32 gigs of memory. I got 16 logical cores on my laptop, but it's by no means a powerhouse of a laptop. It's pretty. And it runs absolutely beautifully. Like, I don't have any issues at all. But if I had, the 64 gig or whatever, it would. That's what we
It would
recommend. That's what we
scream.
say. Yeah, it would scream.
Well, I got to say, for me, this is an extremely exciting release. As you were describing, I spend half my waking hours in Visual Studio, and this is at least the bits that I've seen so far. This is a huge step up. So,
Yeah.
congratulations
Well,
on
thank you.
shipping this.
That's make me happy to hear.
Mads, thank you again. I appreciate your being here again, and we're going to have you back soon, I hope. And I'm going to go off and enjoy Visual Studio 2026. I got to get used to saying that.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a while since we've said anything but 2022, right?
Right.
Well, Jesse, thank you for having me on. This was a pleasure as always.